I thought this trip was all about flowers, but somewhere between the Chelsea Flower Show, one beautiful hotel room, and one truly awful hotel room, I realized something that honestly caught me off guard. And that is our environments affect us far more than most of us want to admit. The Chelsea Flower Show has long been on my bucket list, probably on the bucket list of many women, right? Which is funny though, because I don't even have a garden. I live in a Boston apartment with no outdoor space, not even a window box. And yet I absolutely love flowers. I love trees. I love gardens. Now, how have I compensated? I know the delivery days for the flower shops in my neighborhood. I slow down to look at arrangements through windows. I love clothing that has flowers embroidered on the fabric. Fresh flowers instantly change how I feel in a room. So finally, being here felt a bit surreal. Now, I went as part of a group on Members Day, and that's a wonderful day to go, actually. But if you do go, go early because apparently every Brit wakes up Tuesday morning of the Chelsea Flower Show week and says, "Honey, let's go to Chelsea." The crowds were unbelievable. And honestly, the people watching alone was worth the trip. The clothing was incredible. You saw everything from very casual, because it was raining in the morning, to out comes the hats and the beautiful flowered dresses in the afternoon, in our case, when it was sunny outside. But all around the flower show, the flower grounds are shop fronts, mostly on Kings Road, but they're expanding. And they actually decorate the front of their shops, and that's called Chelsea in Bloom. They were completely over the top in the best possible way. You're seeing a few of the ones that I was able to take photos of. It's really hard to photograph or to video any particular shop front or even in the Chelsea Garden Show or Flower Show because there are so many people. But look at the flowers, the tulips, the alliums. I've never seen such beautiful alliums. The peonies. Honestly, who doesn't love a peony? What surprised me most, though, was that I became obsessed with the outdoor structures. Now, I'm an architecture gal. I love architecture, so maybe it shouldn't have been surprising. But to me, it was, again, I have no yard, but I was possessed. You're seeing some videos of greenhouses and garden rooms and stone pathways, pergolas, as we call them in the States. I think they call them pergolas here. Statues, yard statues, planters. I suddenly wanted an English garden life. And at one point, I became completely convinced that I should put a greenhouse, one of those small greenhouses, in my daughter's backyard. And then I remembered she has four children under 8, and 3 of them are boys. So realistically, the greenhouse would survive perhaps one weekend. By Monday morning, trust me, they'd be using the roof as a launching platform for an assortment of games. I have never seen anything like it in my life. When my daughter, now I'll go back to the statues, the yard statues. When my daughter moved into her new house, I bought her this small stone French bulldog statue for her front porch, right by her front door. I love French bulldogs. I love garden statues. It was my little contribution. You will all laugh. He is still standing, technically, but he only has one ear. I think part of his nose is missing, and he only has 2 functioning legs. I don't understand. So The bigger mystery may be, how do the British teach children to respect gardens and everything inside of them? Clearly, American boys are treating statues as part of yet another contact sport. I don't understand. Those of you who are from places other than Great Britain, please share what it's like in your areas. But somewhere, walking through all of these gardens, I realized something really important, that I had this vision in my head of a future life. Now, I'm not a young woman, so future lives are kind of out there as in terms of positive thinking. But it was there, a small house, a beautiful garden, a little greenhouse, that one with the green paint especially, tulips and peonies everywhere, a few aging stone statues, slightly messy, very British, very overgrown, I should say very English, but there's only one problem, and it's a big one. I don't actually know how to garden. So now I've moved into fantasy territory. But honestly, I really truly love dreaming about it anyway. Dreams are fun. Dreams are crazy, fantastic, and also I have to say, often the fantasies, what starts out as a fantasy, actually leads to possibilities. So let yourself dream. Okay, now we're going to get to the interesting part, which is the hotels. When I first arrived in London, I stayed at number 16 Hotel, which is a place I've loved for years. It's actually townhouses, and it's part of the Ferndale Group, which is run by Kit Kemp and her husband, Tim. And her hotels, there's a consistency with her hotels, as there often are, but hers are very, very unique. She has several in London and several now in New York City. So I stayed where I've stayed for years and have loved for years, decades actually. I stayed at number 16 and I treated myself to afternoon tea in the garden. Look at the garden. The garden is amazing. But it was also one of the best formal teas I have ever had. It does not compare. It far exceeds the really commercialized ones. You know, even the Fordham and Mason, and I think I went to one at the Langham Hotel and whatnot. Wonderful, wonderful tea. And I have to say, it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. It was just a little bit chilly, and I was out in the garden. So it was quiet. It was beautiful. But the hotel itself is just as lovely as the garden. And you're seeing, I'm going to show you my hotel room in just a minute, but the common areas are places where you can just sink into a sofa, pull out a magazine or one of Kit Kemp's books, and go to work. Go to a happy place of dreaming. So let me show you what that hotel room looks like. At number 16 for the first half of this trip until I go to the Cotswolds. And I have to show you this room because it is my favorite room, and this is why. You must see. It overlooks the courtyard. Look at that. And you can have, just so you know, afternoon tea, which I am having tomorrow. You see all these sweet little spots. The gazebo is back here. I love it. Years and years ago, you ladies will all laugh, there was a wedding reception out here, and honest to God, it was the most handsome men I have ever seen in my life. So I opened the window and I actually, call me a voyeur. I actually watched the wedding reception because it was so beautiful. Beautiful people, beautiful space, beautiful outfits. After touring several gardens in the Cotswolds with Sharon Santoni and her group, which is called My French Country Home, I will share all of that in another video because it was so incredible. I returned to London and I checked into a hotel this time in Marylebone, because I love the neighborhood. Daunt Books, all of the shops that are in the little surrounding area were absolutely wonderful. But on paper, I have to say, it seemed like a great choice. I had stayed here, I believe, last November, and it was kind of iffy, but I thought not too bad. It was more reasonably priced than number 16, or it is more reasonably priced. And it was a quick walk to all the shops. And I thought, oh, perfect, perfect. But in reality, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Within 24 hours, in that room, I had 4 mechanics at 4 separate times. The sink leaked. The air conditioning sort of worked, then it didn't work, then it worked, then it shut off completely. And I am in London currently. It's 90 degrees out. We are in a major heat wave. Yesterday morning, I waited. That was my first morning. I waited patiently for my tea and toast until, those caffeine withdrawals just absolutely kick in. So I thought, okay, I don't know what possessed me, but I opened the door to my hotel room. There was the card hanging on the door. So they didn't even pick up the cards the night before where people had placed their morning coffee or breakfast orders or whatever. Oh, and the best of all was there was garbage in the bathroom waste bin from the previous guest. So, like all relationships, we start out bad relationships. We start out by saying, oh, well, they'll get it together. And then another red flag until finally you say, enough. In my case, I got on the phone to my travel agent, and I have to tell you, this is exactly why it is beneficial to get a really good travel agent. I love mine. And I called Sasha and I said, help, 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 help. Sasha went to work and I was moved to another room. In fact, I was moved to a room that's like a suite because it was the only thing they had available. But my travel agent made it work. She has a lot more pull than I do as a single person. But what surprised me in all of this was that the room affected me far more than I expected. Within 24 hours, and it was only 24 hours I was in that room, I had become crabby, anxious, super intense, sad, and completely non-creative. I had creative work that I needed to do before I left for some of my activities of the day. But honestly, I'll be very frank, I was a bitchy mess. Truly, all I wanted to do was to get on a plane and fly back to Boston. And this experience made me realize something very, very important. And that is that our environments impact us enormously. The light, the beauty of the room, the smells in the room, the comfort, the noise that's coming in from the outside. All of those details really matter. It's not just the bed and the sheets and the pillows. It's the entire environment in the room. Truly, I think that room needed to be saged. We think these things, though, are frivolous, but they're not. They shape how we feel inside our own lives. whether we're in a hotel room or we're in a room in our home that we're just kind of putting up with. We're not changing. We're not freshening. I had truly just finished 8 days of fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And within 24 hours, this trip had soured. It became, the trip from hell. Again, like relationships, what we remember most are the hurts and the discomforts and the uncomfortableness of whatever transpired. So let's pay attention to that. Now, I may not have an English garden. I may never have an English garden. I don't think that's in my future. Honestly, at this stage, I'd have to settle for flower arranging and figuring out ways to lengthen the beauty of the flowers. And for those of you who haven't seen it, my little tip on tulips is well watching. It's life-changing for the tulips. But this trip reminded me how deeply beauty, creativity, and atmosphere nourish me and you. And maybe that's the most important part of our next chapters, that we pay attention to what expands us and what it is that, quietly drains us. And often it is very quiet. So if this conversation resonated with you, the flowers, the beauty, hopefully the humor, the longing for maybe a different kind of life, or simply the realization that our environments affect us far more than we admit, I would love to continue the conversation with you. Every Thursday, I write a free letter over in Substack called Letters from Sharri, where I share reflections like these on midlife, on travel, on beauty, creativity, homes, and building that thoughtful next chapter after age 50 that we all desire. And for those that want to go a bit deeper, in Substack, there's something called the Next Chapter Salon. That is the paid Substack version, and truly one of my favorite corners of the internet. The salon is quieter. It's a more personal space where we have deeper conversations about what it means to create a beautiful life in our next chapters. Not perfect. None of this is perfect. It's life, but intentionally. So think of it sort of like pulling up a chair at the table. I call it a table, actually. I'll leave both links below. And for now, I would genuinely love to hear from you and know what environments make you feel most like yourself. What environments nurture your creativity and your curiosity. Take care, everyone. We shall see you soon. A biento.